as we start 1870 with the bidding process, we got in one of those situations where my die rolling causes problems. Basically, players 1, 3, and 4 have each put a bid, $5 each. I'm not worrying too much on the Missouri-Kansas Pacific. And the other 3 players all put it on the Mississippi Bridge Company. This is troublesome. Obviously, you wouldn't see this kind of bidding maybe on the Katy. It's a valuable company. But what about on these others? Hard to say. I mean, with this at 55, is it really better than the Southern? Maybe everybody's got some kind of thoughts of running the MISPAC here, because God knows, starting with the cotton ball is pretty iffy, I think. Anyway, I just wanted to show that kind of stupidity that can happen when I start randomizing the bids. Then the first player came back, bought this. He ended up getting the Missouri, Kansas, Texas, sorry, for $185. Similar to getting the Camden Amboy for that kind of price. And you'd have to say it has similar attributes to it, the $160 price, the $20 payout. So I don't know how bad that is. This thing though went for like 65, which is not a good deal at all. The others all went for par value, which, you know, in general are pretty good. This poor guy didn't get anything. He was involved in the bidding on this. Actually used one of his bidding opportunities to boost himself up to 180 on here, which I guess was his maximum. He just really wanted it. I don't know why. I don't have any plans in place at this point. Who had the last real purchase? That would not be here. It would be the Frisco over here, which means priority. It's going to land over here with the River Bridge Company. No, can he get somebody to help him? Oh, why? You know, you paid a fortune for that thing. Suffer, dude. Well, because this thing's going to make a lot of money. So if he can get somebody to cooperate with him, that would be great. Unfortunately for him, he's got to be careful that he's not giving it to someone who can make too much money. So he's certainly in the market for trying to get his company running. Other people who might be interested in making something run, well, I mean, obviously this is running and it's set at $100 par, which means people who have extra money like this guy can just buy up shares of it. It doesn't make good money though. Look at it, its first 2 hexes, it's not going to make anything. And I don't remember where its home is. It's somewhere not very good, if I recall correctly. Down here in the Gulf, which is a pain in the ass because you can't cross the river. This is a really iffy company, and that's why I think it has the special attribute that it does, that it's going to float no matter what, because it's so crappy nobody would ever start it until late in the game. It would always be strangled. It would be like the Erie. Well, it was a fairly early starter, so you kind of have to give it that advantage. Now the question is who the other early starter is going to be. Is it going to be the Katy, which is often the case, or can the guy with the Mississippi River convince somebody to go in? Can one of the others convince somebody to go in? The Gulf Shipping's not bad either as a starting thing, but you can't use that until the 3 trains come out. There are a fair number of 2s. I count 7, which seems low. I thought there were 8. I'm going to have to look through my train deck and make sure I have everything there. My players don't like to give somebody else an advantage by helping them float a company. And that's almost generally the rule for me. I usually sit at a table and see people actually cut deals. But my feeling is always, let them rot, you know? This guy spent a fortune on this, let him rot. Well, yeah, except if he's going to use it immediately, I might get more money out of being part of his deal, or at least as much money as he did, and thus end up ahead just because I wasn't the one who had to spend for it. So actually the big buy on this might have been worthwhile if someone had picked it up. But here's one thing. He controls the flow across the Mississippi now. So he can make the decision of when it's a good time to, say, start the IC, which is a particularly powerful rail for cutting across here, if he doesn't want to use its special advantage. And he can get the 80 bucks off of it. On the other hand, the guy with the presidency of the Katy, well, all the Katy sold out. Everybody pretty much decided, let's buy Katys because they're going to make better money than anything else that's out there. So they all sell out, and then we get to a lot of the Friscos selling out just because, well, they're not going to make shit, but they'll make something, maybe not in the first round, but at least they're going to make some money. Now that puts an interesting position. For example, if this guy doesn't want the Frisco, if he wants to ditch his presidency, he's making some significant money because he got 2 free shares. Well, he got 2 shares for 140 that are now worth 200 bucks. So he has just made 60 bucks. He could cash that in, not in the first round, but you know, after he runs the company. Now, of course, it's going to drop down a little bit to 90 a share. So that's instead of making 60, he's only making 40, right? Is that right? Yeah. So he probably wants to hold it and try running it a little bit, and then he's going to get it set up in a decent shape, and then, you know, everybody's got to make their decisions where they're going to be. By the time that he makes, you know, some money off of them and gets them back up to the 100, well, these guys might be ready to ditch already, and then, such is life, right? Okay. So we're pumping into the first operating round, I guess. We give out the money for all the privates. 25 here. I think that's the big one in terms of people getting cash. It'll be set up so that you can take advantage of good things even if they help other people. So the Katy's build, the Frisco built track, opening up the opportunity for the Katy to come down here, hook up, run. They can each run 2 trains. They bought themselves their 2 trains. The Frisco could just run 2 trains to the Doinkers. That would work too. In the long run, where the Frisco's going is down here, but we don't really want to worry about that too much. The Katy's heading down here. We want to get this built up, which probably means starting the Southern Pacific if nobody else will do it, and building up some track down here coming out of that, so that when I get the bonus run, I'm able to make some good money off of it. But at this stage in the game, I'm trying to head south so I can make that bonus run. Now, one thing I got to worry about is how many cities I run through for the bonus run, because if I can get a lot of little trains running at once, it's great. In which case we're looking at a 1-2 probably, but we could do a 3 train, and that would probably be the optimal setup for us, actually, if we can get to that. But that means missing all of the intervening cities, which is tough to do, because if you've got a decent number of trains, you probably run them on multiple cities, and you know, you might make a branch out to hit Wichita or something, but you don't want it to be on your main line running down into the southwest. Anyway, that's just some thinking along those lines. Likewise, it's possible to run a 2 train between the southeast and the Frisco. Probably I don't need a 2 train for that. A 3 will probably do it. But again, you want to keep these things in mind and think about what and where you want your eventual bell ringer to be. You have to worry about that a lot more in this game, what the track's going to look like in the medium game. Long run game, you kind of worry about, no matter what, things like St. Louis, where that's going to be probably the gatekeeper to the Chicago moneymaker, and that's of course something that could be important. All these different gatekeeper cities in front of the red areas. Not that all the red areas are necessarily all that good, but you know, you got to remember, most of the browns, the P's go up to 50, but the rest of the browns are going to go to 40, which isn't terribly good. I don't know what our grays are. I can guarantee you St. Louis has one. Who's the other one? Kansas City. No big shock. Well, we made a mess. One person was close enough that they were able to buy another certificate from the Frisco. Everybody else kind of in a holding pattern here. Nobody wants to dump and lose money. They wouldn't have bought anything if they wanted to do a purchase right away. And the Katy goes up another one as it's rising in value because it's all sold out. And the Frisco is getting pretty close. Just one more certificate, which means we're probably pretty close to people dumping stuff. Just because, you know, they're going to be making enough. And now we hand out the privates again and see what these two massive mighty railways are able to do. Frisco had to go out first. It only made $4 a share hooking this up. It's only going to get to 7 running on 2-2 trains. Not a lot of room for growth. Maybe I can start humping my way down towards the southeast there. At least lay some track that I could cut into in a different direction if I so desire. Meanwhile, the Katie's trying to do that clean track going all the way down to the southwest, get an early bonus run in. An early bonus run kind of sucks because you might not make as much. You'd probably make more off of the period where the 3s and 4 trains are in play. Maybe a couple 3s and a 4, enough to start another company or whatever. But there's some advantage to getting the run early, because then you can be paying out that bonus run off that doubled area again and again. Of course, that doubled area is only worth 20 right now, so it's really not that great to hook it up real early, but he's made that decision to at least try to. Who knows, maybe he'll make the decision to hit Oklahoma City and just not, you know, follow through with what he's been doing. If he does that, he probably wants to get a dot there and start running some trains here and some trains here or whatever, try to make more money. But as of right now, this is kind of on his mind. What did I say? I said the runs were 4 for the Frisco, 8 for the Katy. People have some cash, probably enough to start a company. This is sort of the first time when you can turn your capital around and start a new company when you weren't able to before. Maybe you made a few extra bucks. This guy certainly could. And the Frisco is not the most appealing company out there. And he's sitting on priority. Might be the time to do it. He and the Katy owner have to keep in mind is who else has shares of it. So for example, if I'm not getting rid of my shares, I'm probably still not going to end up in control of the Frisco in the long run. This guy, I'm never going to see his shares. Coming around here. If this guy's not selling his shares, he maybe has good reason not to with the Gulf Shipping Company, which kind of works nicely if he gets the GMO running. That works kind of nicely with the Frisco in terms of being able to make a lot of money with an open port and mobile or something. So that's pretty appealing to him to scoop up Friscos, even if they're not big money makers, just because he has the card to make the Frisco work better. Of course, he can use that over here too, or even on the Illinois Central, although he's got to be careful with the IC because he's got to hook up to a river or a port to be able to get the cash from the shipping company. And by doing that, he's making things harder because then the GMO can go in here too and maybe cut the Frisco from getting stuff. So working with those doesn't make as much sense. Anyway, got a lot of thinking to do at this point. This might be the turn that he wants to dump the Frisco, simply because he's probably not going to end up with it. He's making some money with it, but why not turn it around and start a better company? He started it with big money on it, but it never looks like it's going to go very far. And by dumping it, he puts it, it makes it somebody else's problem instead of his. Likewise, the Katy has to worry about that too. He's looking at, you know, he's got one guy right after him with 2 shares. He's not going to see those. If this guy dumps, he ends up picking those up. And that's possible. This guy's got a lot of cash. So it's possible he might end up with enough shares of the Katy that he gets to hold it. On the other hand, it's also possible that these shares will slowly fall into his hands and he'll end up with the presidency anyhow. The only real decision to dump a company was this guy, because the money he made off of the St. Louis, San Francisco, the extra money, gave him enough to start any old company he likes off the bat. He chose not to do that. This guy over here bought himself a Frisco. That moves the priority and kind of changes the dynamics. I'm going to give this guy another. See, he's got nothing he really wants in terms of a company. Is there something that's going to make good money right away? Not really at this point. And he's going to make better money holding these and running them. The problem, of course, is, well, there's going to be a couple of people after the next round who maybe have enough money, and I'll be pushing a little bit more. In particular, though, he passed on his choice to buy, and then after this guy made a purchase, I don't think he's going to come back around and change his mind on that, although knowing that he doesn't have priority anymore for sure, although he pretty much knew that. You know, he's definitely behind what this guy's making. Is there a company, though, that makes sense to start right now? You know, I mean, I've got 4 shares here. I'm making pretty decent money. How much do I really get by pumping out further? The TP wants to get down here to New Orleans, which is not a bad place. Burlington wants to get up to Denver. This is hard to get into. This is the problem. You start building this up, and you've got a pain in the ass to get through there. A lot of crap you got to cut through or else go through these doinkers. So I don't know. Anyway, I think he's going to hold off just because there are no great options and opportunities available at this stage in the game, I think. Plus, he'll be starting it at a really low value, I think, at the 72. Nobody else can start it up at 68 even. I can start something at 68 even. This guy with his Katie, you know, if he's only going to have 3 shares, he's not going to want to put the cattle company there. He's going to want to put it on some company that he can run with more than 30%. Yeah, I don't know. If he pulls $100 out of the treasury, what the hell? Now, since we're going into the operating round, the Katie goes up. One of the special things I forgot to mention about this game, normally in 1830 you're bounced here. Instead, you slip down into the same value but with the opportunity to go up next time. Now, of course, you could say, well, wait, you're kind of losing some rows or something. That's actually a safer position because you have less distance to fall. So it's kind of cool. It got him out of the being over, you know, kind of the cheap seats over here, which can be kind of risky. Moving to the next stock round, we had a little bit of excitement. This guy feels so uncomfortable holding the Katies that what he's done is he's cranked himself up to buy himself a dot here, another train. It's still a fairly comfortable position to be in. It's not anything to really worry too much about. But if he runs here 1, 2, 3, 4, he needs a 5 train to get to the southwest using the track that he's using. He might have been better curving around. He kind of wants to get through either Fort Worth or Dallas. They're potentially worth more once you get to the medium to larger size trains. But this starts producing him better income. This turn he only made 8 again. But next turn he's going to be making 4, 6, 10. Sorry, 4, 8, 12 around. So the Katies are starting to look like, wow, they're really money makers. This means he's probably not going to dump it right away. But it also means he's probably he has some intention of running it hard and towards the ground at some point or another, which may mean he wants to take it dipping down into the yellows or greens with a lot of swallows at some point. That can help you get trains on another company or something. Or maybe he's just going to run it hard, and if somebody's sitting there, hand it off to them. It's not a terrible burn, but, you know, whatever. So now we're back at the stock round, and he actually has priority. He's starting to make some good money, but not enough to start a company out of just the cash on hand. He's probably going to wait and invest in something someone else starts. With the start that we had, it wasn't too surprising what the next line is going to be. It's the one I never see because it's covered up here. It's the Santa Fe. This might have actually been a good start for him last time. Cutting out, cutting out of the Frisco and taking his cash. However, he can't be too upset. The guy who started the Santa Fe is the guy without any minors, and he was privates, and he was able to start it on 6 full shares. Kind of, you need that at this point. Nobody's going to help you float a company unless they're clearly in the, behind the 8 ball. a number of people had 81 bucks left. Anyway, he dumped his kind of valuable stocks, the Katie's and the Friscos. Nobody was able to price protect them. Nobody had that kind of cash on hand to buy 2 shares out of their pocket. If we'd gone another round, it would have been that way. So they would have had that kind of money. This puts him in a really bad position because now there's somebody directly before him sitting on 3 shares of the Katie. He's almost certain not to keep it. So now his question is, can he mismanage it enough that everybody drops their shares, or is he just gonna, you know, concede the fact that he's running a decent company, making good money for both of them, and this guy's coming out ahead because of his privates, and just sit on that and, you know, whatever. And it's hard to dump this because he's got this little cattle token. That's kind of a nice bonus to the company that he gives it to. So even if he takes $100 for this out of the poor Katie's treasury to give himself more cash, he can't do that until the 3 trains come out. But they're going to come out. The Santa Fe can run a big train out here. He's giving away something good to the Katie. He's losing something that he kind of wanted. In terms of the cattle company, that would be useful for the Santa Fe, for other companies. And, you know, all for just $100, basically. Now, that $100 could hurt the Katie quite a bit at this point. The Katie's running kind of, bought a lot of trains, paid for some track upgrade up here, well, some track lays up here that cost them some money. And, you know, may not be in the most affluent position or flush with cash right now. They didn't start out with a lot of cash. The Santa Fe able to start at 82 is pretty big. That was, he's still got some cash left over actually. But again, this is a guy who didn't pay anything on his privates. What's sold out? Well, just the Katie. The Frisco, somebody left in there. So only the Katie's going to go up. The Frisco's still going to go first before it because it's further right. And we're still on 1 operating round because the greens haven't come out yet. Right. The Santa Fe ends up buying itself the first 3 trains so it can kind of bust out through here at Oklahoma City. Right now, a 3 train would actually get it to its destination on sort of the cleanest route available. The Katie's setting up that clean route. They may be looking to make a connection through here so that they can skip through Kansas City. That's not really what you want to do. You want to go through KC, but you also maybe want to get those bonus runs early coming out of here and set up more to be running down in the southwest rather than up where he starts. Out of the companies with best bonus runs, like I said, the IC is pretty good. The Gummo is also really strong because St. Louis becomes very valuable. Kansas City up here does not have, I'm sorry, that's Topeka. Oh no, we don't care about that. Kansas City up here does not have a bonus. It's an endpoint for the Katie, which is potentially okay. Or potentially of value because it has to make the 1 run down to here, but it's this space that's going to be doubled, not the KC space. Nobody's going to get the KC space doubled, and that's the other really valuable space. KC and St. Louis are the 2 gray cities. They get, I think, as rich as Chicago does. There's no huge super cities in this one. Anyway, with the real question was who's going to buy the first 3 train. The Frisco thought about buying another 2 to force the Santa Fe to buy it, and then decided, nah, screw it. I'd rather have the 3 train than have to buy it, because if I can get the run down here, that is a 3 train. Hey, great. And then I've got a couple of deuces. If I set it up right, I can get in here. Now, it's hard to set it up right if you don't have another company laying the track for you. But maybe somebody will start the Gummo. Maybe not. We'll see. And if they do, maybe it'll help me. I have to actually open it up so I can make the run. So if this is built with just yellow track with the Gummo's headquarters in it, I can't get through that. So I can't make that bonus run to begin with. I do have to dot this, though, with this Frisco at some point, because otherwise I don't have my way out of my bonus territory. I have to come out this way, which is going to be difficult. Other people might shut me down and keep me from getting anywhere useful. I've seen it where, you know, the Frisco's like running up in these boinkers because that's where it gets double money for one of its trains, and it's just horrible. What you want to be doing is really running one train out this way and one train coming down this way or whatever, and you know, maximize the number of times you hit your doubled city. But it does not have one of the bonus double. These are the two that make the big money, and that tends to be a very rich area. We've handed out the cash. We only have one operating round, but next time we start with two, I gotta deal out the green tiles. Notice the boinkers upgrade to somewhat more flexible versions of them. There's nothing weird in this one, like, you know, several Canadian citizens being eliminated or anything. So the guy with priority dumped everything. 2 Friscos, which this guy didn't have enough to cover, and a Katie, which he had $100, so he paid to protect the price. That dumps it over, you know, he pays the $100 directly, then takes the share. So now he's got a stronger holding on the Katies. And this is kind of the point. You're a little safer in this game as to being able to keep a hold on a company because of the price protection or share price protection function. Now, he probably doesn't have enough money to buy another one, though, and that's kind of the problem. And it also opens things up for this guy to say, hey, I don't know if I want to hold my companies. Of course, he just took a big bath of $18 a share on his Friscos, so he kind of can't afford. This isn't the turn he wants to sell anymore. This guy's buying the Gummo, and he started at a crappy-ass 68 a share. He wants to get his Gulf shipping into play early in the game, get the big money from that, and start another company. The Gummo isn't necessarily the best company to have the Gulf shipping. The best would probably be one of the guys who has a destination over here, either the Santa Fe, the Southern Pacific, or the Texas Pacific. The problem is, those guys don't get a quick turnaround off of it, and, well, I'd like to get that money in my hand so I can float another company. This could be a very dangerous thing to do, starting a company at such a low value at this stage in the game when we're out at the 3 trains. Late in the game, if a permanent train is available, it could, unless it's the 6th train, it could be disastrous in that you have to pay some more money out of pocket. And this is a better moment than doing it back here. It may be a better moment than doing it back with the 2 trains at a low value. We may see that the Katie has some real cash flow problems and is going to have to swallow because it paid all this money for these deuces. The problem, though, of course, is if the Gummo is ending up not being helped by another company, it's going to have some trouble hitting those permanent trains. Just a lot of the older companies will. There's a certain point in the game where you come in and, you know, wow, I'm all set up, look, permanent train, yay, you know. Starting these companies at low value is risky in any of the XX games. But I believe in having a company, I believe in trying to turn around my money, and I believe I wasn't doing too well in the position I was in. So now we go over to this guy and see what he can do with his reduced position. Now, you notice, if he had had the cash to price protect the Friscos, then he could turn around and sell them immediately afterwards at their full price and keep the share value that he had in his 3 shares. Now he's kind of hurt by that. And that's an option that's open to the guy with the Katie. If no one else sells, he can sell his shares if he so desires. I think he's pretty happy holding the Katie right now. And if he gets, you know, if this guy sells, if anybody else sells really, it's going to hurt the price. And he's going to take an immediate bath on that share that he bought. Well, this guy picked up a Santa Fe. Still had some extra cash on hand. I don't know why he has so much money, but probably had a pile left over from last time. Pass over here. Pass over here. Or maybe I'm stealing money because this guy had nothing. This guy dumps 40% of the Katie, 10% of the Frisco. The Frisco goes into his hands. to protect its price, although it's not really necessary. It was at a ledge, but it helps. I don't know. I don't know why I did it. But the new owner of the Katy did not have the cash to turn it around to protect it. So its price just dropped. This guy is sitting here now starting up the Missouri Pacific, which you might say, what the hell? Well, the reason for that is there's two companies that go to cattle towns. Cattle towns being ones that the Southern Cattle Company can be a bonus for. And those two are Dallas and Fort Worth. Dallas is the closer one, plus I don't have to worry about trying to cross the Mississippi, which I can't do yet. So, although this is a longer run, at least I can start building the track out of St. Louis. Now this is kind of a hose to this poor fella who, I don't know what he's up to. He's in really bad shape, and I think somebody stole his money. Well, this was one of those kind of intense stock rounds where a lot happened. The Missouri Pacific starting, obviously, the Gummo starting. Beyond that, some other things shifted. This guy sold a Katy. That's how he got the extra money for a share, because he wanted to buy the Santa Fe so that he's protected against a possible dump of the Katy. So he probably did not steal anybody. I checked the money and it looked like it was right, but I don't know for sure. So other than that, we do see the Frisco and the Santa Fe were able to buy one of their own shares back. They can only do one per full stock turn, stock round, whatever. But that's building up some equity for later. When these suckers start making a higher value, they can be released. You can only hold up to 4 of them, and 60% has to be either in players or open market hand. Over here, this guy sold the Mizpak to pick up a Santa Fe just because it's going to make a little more money. He got his company floated. You could say the same about the Gummo, but the Mizpak got a real long and ugly route ahead of it. I don't know how well his move is going to be. He's starting a company in a stupid place just based on what this is worth to the cattle company. I think that was probably not the wisest of choices, but I don't know if he'd be better off. I don't know. Anyway, the reason this one did not pick up its own shares is this guy's sitting on a ton of money that he needs the corporation to float him, and the Katy's just going to turn into this, you know, big suck for a while. Or his other company will, who knows. But chances are it's going to be the Katy, because people are holding shares of it, so he wants to get them to start dumping them out. And maybe he can get his stock value down into the area where it doesn't count. But that's got to happen when it's important for it to happen. At this point in the game, we're not really near the certificate limits, which are 11 per player. He's sitting on 3, 4, 5, 6. But if he starts another company, he's right up against it. So maybe holding those Katys down in the yellow is of some value to him. And we see significant track upgrades to make the cities better, make room for dots, etc. Mizpak trying to cut its way through to here. May or may not want to use this track, but I may also want to use what's coming out of here. I think I'd rather hook into the city and try to see what I can take advantage of. Another alternative would be to try to shoot up here, but the problem is I'd be blocked off here by the Santa Fe Katy combination, that dot combination there. The Gummo trying to push its way up towards St. Louis to, you know, get its run at some point. I'm holding off on selling either the Gulf shipping or the stuff from here until after the next operating round, so I get maximum income into the pocket, so I can try to start another company the quicker I can. Now the Gummo is not going to make enough. This is only 160 bucks, but that'll give me a couple extra shares for investment purposes. Probably should have dumped one of those Gummo shares, like the owner of the Mizpak did, to buy something that actually is going to give me money. The problem is, other than the Santa Fe, I had everything else. I didn't realize, yeah, the Santa Fe is not bad. The Katy is really cranking though. It made 16 a share this time. 5, 10, 16 here, which is pretty sweet. Okay, as we cut around to the next stock round, what did we get here? The Katy totally pillaged all its money in here. He's ready to start another company. Probably going to dump his 2 shares that he's allowed to dump of the Katy if he gets a chance. He may not get the chance because the other couple of shares that are out, well, chances are people are going to dump them. It looks like a swallow monster right now. It really does. At best, it might pay out half. It's only making 16. Other people are in that territory now. It got to jump an extra round of high payout. Other companies, the Santa Fe is paying out about the same amount. Made a quick detour down here to Dallas with the intention of making a little bit more money, you know, at this point. And the I think, yeah, the Katy came after it. The Katy broke down to try to get the hookup to make that big run. But it's beginning to look like it's really not going to be pumping out much more money for some time. Mizpak dotted in here. That's because this looks like it's going to be vital one way or another to its run down to Dallas. Gummo shot over here for extra money. Also bought the Gulf Shipping, put the port into play. This guy, Mizpak, bought the Southern to give some cash over to the owner so that he can, you know, make some money, because he's really right now only making 80 bucks off his one train. Some of the companies are in really, the Katy's in really ugly shape because it's got 3 deuces. The 4s aren't all that far away, especially if people are starting to buy new companies. Now, there's not really a great desire to start a new company at a low value at this point, unless maybe you're this guy who doesn't have a company at all and really wants to get started. His position, well, he's kind of got his eye on the IC if he can get a hold of it. The IC tends to be really, really valuable in this game, at least to my experience, as opposed to things like the SP, which have this troublesome situation of getting to New Orleans. They got to work with the TP. It ends up being difficult because they're not near each other. It's not like these two trying to work together. They kind of got to collide somewhere in here to get the track there and get that built up in time to make some big money. Usually the connection ends up happening on a 20-buck piece of track, doubled, that's 40. Ooh, that's not too impressive. You know, just the money that's been made off the extra run usually isn't very big. And usually they don't have a lot of trains either, because they're fairly new companies when they do come out. They're not great starting places at the beginning of the game, at least in my opinion. So anyway, that's where we are right now. And with the end of the stock round, the IC ended up over in his hands. He didn't have enough cash for it. He's just so poor. Nobody else was in a great position to start a company, but he was able to dump his Katys, figuring, hey, anybody want it? Go ahead, take it. It's so hosed. A number of people have a share, but they're probably going to lose money off of it. This is not like 1830. 50% in the stock pool doesn't really help the corporation at all. It's going to have to swallow, or at least half swallow. He's only got 2 shares. You know, he's going to take some losses, but it's in a pretty bad place over here. However, it did get him enough money to buy himself an IC. Now, the IC has a ton of money, which he could transfer some of it over to the Katy, and that would help fix the problem. The danger there, of course, is priorities over here. All kinds of people are going to buy Katys if it ends up looking strong. So maybe it's best letting it rot a little longer. Other people, a lot of certificate redemption. I turn them over that way so I don't buy 2 with one company. We got the GMO, got itself up into place. The Mizpak, of course. I don't know if the GMO had done one before, but I think it hadn't. So that's where that went. A couple of them with a couple of shares redeemed. The IC starting on that process right away. It's important to get it started, and it doesn't cost you. You can see he's still got 60%. Some other people bought some, which allows him to transfer a certificate out of there. Everything is sold out except the Katy and the IC. So everything else is going up in value. We're going to be at the 2 stock rounds, and let's start rolling this away. A little bit of attempt to shake things up. The Mizpak buys the last of the 3 trains after the IC bought one, and that puts everything into an ugly position where the 4 trains available. The Katie passes on, well, what they could have done was shifted the 3 train over, crashed the IC. They can still do that, but the first 4 train went to the Gummo here. It's running around 15, what everybody else is hitting. And we go to a phase change wherein all the 2s are disappearing. And that strips away some of the big money runs that everybody's counting on. Put these over there for now. And that's going to be a bit of a problem for some of these companies. They're just not making a lot of money. And the 4s come out pretty quick, actually, because people want them. People want to make those big runs, and they want to hook up for their bell ringer or whatever. And Katie's got to, between the Katie and the IC, they got to buy something. So the Mizpak kind of threw a real monkey wrench into his plans here. I don't know if it's going to work that well for the Mizpak having a pair of 3s unless he can get another company. That's not the best of positions to be in, but he is making some money right now. I tried upgrading this. You can't do that because that's crossing the Mississippi. So I had to undo that. I always have those kind of problems when I play. This one's really hard to remember that special feature of it for whatever reason for me. There's a number of things. This is, I think, the game, it was either this or 56, where a friend of mine basically compounded his own cash and the cash in his company when we were playing one game, and it just, we had to quit. It was so irreversible in terms of we just couldn't back it up. But that I was able to back up the money. Both the Frisco and the MP were making an extra buck from it. Somebody lost a track lay because of it, but that's okay. See, the IC decided to only buy itself 1 4 train. It could have bought a couple, but only wants 1 because I've got my eye on a 5 train here. I have enough money for 1. Well, 5s aren't permanent, but a 5 gets me, let's see, 1, 2, 3, up to here. A 4 gets me there too. Maybe I'm better off buying that second 4. The reason that I'm thinking this, and I don't know who's gone afterwards, the Gummo's gone after. Yeah, I don't think I can undo that in any reasonable way. I was thinking, let's be cautious here. Let's not end up with 2 4 trains, because that's so awful, even with multiple companies in 1830. But in a sense, 2 5 trains may be the bad thing in this. Assuming the 5 trains get crashed, which is a big assumption. They actually tend to hold out pretty well. But if I'm playing as the leading player, I may well face everyone trying to push out the 12s. I've seen that happen and fail, so I don't know. Anyway, let's continue with what my plan was, which was to hook up this track. I built some track here with the Katie. Now I got to buy a train. I'm going to just pay 10 bucks, pick up a 4 train here, and that causes a bell ringer. I've already failed and gone back, but that's okay. Now, without it hurting me, I get to run for 30, 60, 90, 130, and I can pocket that for no cost. And that gets me enough money, not quite to buy another train. Well, I could buy another 4 train, but it does start building up the amount of money that the Katie has. And that means that I'll be able to start scooping them up out of here and build up for that late game situation. Or I could buy another train, which I should have done before with the IC if that's what I want, and run a couple of trains down here. See, the thing is, the IC, I was thinking I wanted to run from down here, but I can't do that. I got to run from here up to here. Now, of course, once I get the bell ringer out of the way, then I can make that longer run. But 1, 2, 3, a 4 train is all I need, not a 5. And I was thinking I was needing to hold off for a 5 train. Such as, we just screwed up, that's all. But we're not far from the 5s anyway. Anyway, that gets, what did I say, 90, 130 bucks into the Katie's hands. Give them a little bit more operating cash. Maybe make it, I don't want to buy a 4 train. Yeah, I don't know. But at least I can start building out of here and get maybe a double run out of there at some point or another. Right now, this is about all I can do is with that 4 train. And maybe for the rest of the game, maybe I don't really care too much about the Katie. I caught myself cheating a couple of times, redeeming shares on a turn before they operated. I think it all kind of comes out in the wash. The IC, I think, did it, and they have enough money to have done it now, but don't have the desire to at this point. I'm going to let it go, but I'm not going to give it for one of the new companies, the St. Louis Southwestern, which kind of wanted to do it. I looked that up because it bugged me. I realized, wow, that seems kind of strange to, you know, have just floated and immediately start buying back your shares. I think I've made that mistake several times in this game, actually. Probably been caught at it as well, because you have this desire to bring, you know, to get your shares redeemed as quickly as you can, to bank them up. Anyway, I'm sure I've made bigger mistakes, maybe not rules errors, but bigger mistakes that affect play more. So what did we see here? Speaking of possible mistakes, the owner of the Mizpak starts the Texas and Pacific at 76 bucks with this thought of, oh shit, I'm going to need a second railway. And there aren't all that many out. Of course, this is the guy who kind of shook things up with the 2-3 trains, so he may just be this total wild card in this game. He has a possible escape route, though. The Mizpak, this fellow picked up 2 shares of it. Now, this may not be bad for either player, in the sense that this guy might be able to get rid of his huge holding of Mizpaks at high value without having to suffer the train cost. He may be able to run this a little harder, maybe even transfer a train out or something. But depending on how healthy he leaves it, like if he really rapes it, it's going to be horrible for this guy. But if he leaves it reasonably healthy, I don't know if it's that terrible to hold it on a couple of shares. We'll see. It is not a healthy company, though, right now. And I think it really was a mistake to buy that second share there, because priority is almost all invariably, the way I play counterclockwise, it's almost invariably going to be against him. But his option was really a Katie or a Mizpak, and he was like, oh, I can't deny the Mizpak. Katie's actually, the president managed to pick up some of his shares back. He's not planning on running the thing. He's planning on running it into the yellow at the very least, so the certificate count limit doesn't count against him. But he may be planning on running it even lower than that as a cash cow to make sure both his companies have good trainage, and then come roaring out. Not that you can really roar out in these types of stock markets that only allow 1 advance per turn, but whatever. And then we also saw the St. Louis Southwestern, the Cotton Belt, start. This was really a matter of, geez, I have the money. Do I want to start the company? He started at 100, so he's got $1,000 in it. Do I really want to start a company? Well, we saw one fall here. This guy didn't start a second, but I think I better. And then we kind of saw a petering out of that whole attitude. This guy looked and said, you know, I could start one, but it's going to be worth crap. And in fact, the guy with no companies thought the same thing. Let's let these 2 companies kind of wash things out. See what they do. They might bring the 5s or 6s out. And then we're in a really interesting position. And these guys ended up with priority just because the Cotton Belt started, you know, afterwards and had to buy up everything. So we could have a very interesting stock round next time. The operating round here is going to be, Cotton Belt's going to be able to work together with the IC and get some kind of run here, even though the stupid bridging is still not happening. And the Texas and Pacific is going to be building track to try to help connect up with the MISPAC so that they both, well, I don't really get my run with the MISPAC. I've got to get down here somewhere. My run with the Texas and Pacific, but the MISPAC, I can help hook up its run. Which is one of the reasons I kind of don't want to get rid of the MISPAC. And we're going to see the cattle token show up out here too, which will be a bonus for everyone. Back when the Katy made its bell ringer, the Santa Fe should have too. This is okay, this is within the rules. If you miss one, it's fine. But if somebody notices it, and they just did, hey! So the Santa Fe's got to run its stupid little 3 train running down here. And that's all it has. And it may have had something better back when the Katy did it. At the end of the first operating round, everybody kind of paid out. The big payouts were around 20 a share. The Frisco was able to pay that. The GMO was able to pay that with their little incestuous route down here. I don't know if there were any really weak payouts other than the folk who had nothing. The Katy was able to pull 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That doesn't sound right. Oh no, they didn't pay out. They swallowed 130 bucks, getting themselves to the yellow. So now I can half pay out as much as I like. If I feel the need to get myself down to the green, I'll try to work my way there. But that's a deep cut in there. I'd rather let people sell shares to get me down into the green. I don't want to get too far down. I think the yellow is strong enough. That's going to make Katy shares attractive. Everybody's going to buy one. Nobody's going to have 2, but everybody wants 1. And they actually have a fair amount of money. The only thing is with 2 companies, and you know, it makes this position kind of scary, but he's only planning on holding it for this stock round. He's going to start a company next turn. So, who else? I was wrong about the cattle company. That's only for the MISPAC that it adds. That's fine. I wanted the TP to build track there. I just thought it got that extra 10 bucks the way that the open port kind of works for everyone. And everybody's kind of taking advantage of that now. The IC's not making a hell of a lot of money. 30, 60, I think 8 a share. That's about as crappy as it gets right now, and it's feeling kind of like the pen with that. But they're making their way towards their destination. Their destination is not going to be too impressive until St. Louis is open, but and they can hit that. And without the MISPAC building all the track up here to Chicago, I don't know how impressive the IC is going to be for quite a while. The Gummo as well, although at least the MP's built some track going southward. But this is a really weird game for the rivers not being crossed. Now, you notice, well here, look, it looks like I'm kind of crossing it. I'm not, because St. Louis is on that side of the river, and over here, this is on this side of the river, so I can build that track. It does feel a little confusing. There's a lot about this particular XX that I always found a little cumbersome and a little easy to make mistakes, which is why the share redemption, hey, you know. All right, we're on to the second operating round, and we got, you know, big money collecting up on these guys. And to some extent, the ones that have already invested in a couple of shares, they're in pretty good shape. This guy's got an extra $320 sitting in his company if he chooses to release it. That goes a long way towards even one of the bigger trains. And he's getting some additional income from those shares as well. And that's nothing to be sneered at right now. It's making decent income. Might have to do a half swallow or something. I don't know. Full of errors on this one. I forgot to raise the stock values. I remediated that situation as well at the beginning of the operating round. So a number of the companies, most, the only exceptions were the 2 new companies and the Katy, all went up in value, and that's reflected in there. Doesn't really hurt anything, I don't think, unless I screwed up there too. The most notable decision that's being made this turn is by the MISPAC, which I just ran, by not buying that 4 train. They could make some money off the 4 train, but they're unwilling to pick up too many of these. I mean, the 4s disappear when the 8s come out. The 8s are the next after the 6s. I would kind of like to get some permanent trains. By doing this, I think I'm making it very unlikely I dump the Mizpak. The way to maybe make the Mizpak a deal would have been to buy up. But see, the problem is I'm not going to get another company. These are my 2 companies. If I give one away, I don't have it anymore. I don't have something to replace it. And the Mizpak, I've kind of invested my life's blood into it and never gotten a real payoff from it. But then again, nobody's gotten any real payoffs. Everything's running so poorly because of the river cutting the board in half. And so I don't really know, but if I buy that train, I'm really kind of influencing the demise of all the slower trains. Now that's kind of what I intended when I bought the Texas and Pacific. But the thing is, I know that new companies have to come out next turn. These guys are going to have to pick up companies. You can just look at their position and say, you know, if they sit on it, somebody else is going to buy it. They're going to lose their priority, whatever. They've got their last option for a second company here, or in this case, perhaps the last option for a company at all. And it would suck not to have one at all. I mean, he's going to come in last no matter what, and I'm not sure what happened. He had so little money early on. I know he made a stupid bid on the Mississippi River Company, but he's just been, you know, he's down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stocks. There's other people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, with 2 presidencies. You know, and granted, he has some of the higher valued stuff, but over here, this guy has significantly more, and he just has not been able to keep up. I think his bid was really a terrible one that set him back. I hope that I didn't cheat in some way and lose his money maybe over here. Anyway, by making the decision not to buy that train, the Mizpak's kind of giving a breather to this guy, but is it that much of a breather? He's also sitting there with 1 train on each company. The people who are in the lead right now, the GMO is making good money, but the St. Louis Southwestern is not that strong. The Frisco's making pretty good money. These are the guys who are hitting the 20. But again, you know, at least he has other stuff that's valuable. But I'm leaving it up to them to make the choice of, do they want to break things open? And this is a tough choice, because for him, he's doing great the way he is. But, I mean, he's got fantastic stocks and everything. But he really kind of has the choice of either buy a company this next time, or other people will buy it, and he's going to be, you know, in worse position because of it. So a lot of times you have to do something that'll screw yourself up just to maintain your position. Katie paid out half to maintain its position in the yellow zone. It's kind of nice not to have to dance back and forth under 1830 if you want to stay in the yellow. You usually have to swallow once, pay out once, swallow once, pay out once. And the main reason for that, of course, is simply to keep the certificates in the non-counting zone. I don't need that yet, but I think I will very shortly, and I don't think anybody's willing to buy 2 certificates of Katie. I think that Katie's got a fair amount of money on it. It's a viable company now, so nobody's going to be too unhappy with it, and I think probably everybody will pick up a certificate if they can. This guy, because he can buy as many as he can buy 60%, and maybe later can buy as many as he wants, but it's going to be hard to get it down into the green. He is perfectly willing to buy them up. They may not be his top priority choice, but they probably are, unless something really tasty comes up with the dumps that are likely to happen. All right, well, we didn't see the 5 trains break. That was the whole point of the T&P as far as I was concerned. But I guess he was kind of planning on more people rushing for trains, and that didn't happen. We're going to send this one up now. We're at that hour mark or so. and see what happens in the next section of the game, really.